All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore a really powerful leadership lesson today, one that comes from the story of a brand new king who is facing his very first big test. It's all about a single choice, a choice that can either build an amazing legacy or completely tear a nation apart.
And really, this whole story, it all boils down to this one piece of advice given to the king. It says, if you will be kind to these people and please them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants. Just look at those words. Be kind, please them, a favorable answer. This isn't some complicated strategy. It's a simple, profound instruction on how to lead by serving.
So you got to wonder, right? With such clear, wise advice sitting right in front of him, how could a leader possibly make a choice so bad that it literally broke his nation in two? Well, the answer tells us something absolutely crucial about leadership and the huge difference between pride and humility.
So our story comes from the Bible, in the book of 2 Chronicles. King Solomon, who was legendary for his wisdom and his huge building projects, he's just died, and his son Rehoboam is stepping up to take the throne. But he's not just getting a crown, he's inheriting all the pressure of his father's legacy, and he is about to face a massive challenge right out of the gate.
The people come to their new king with what sounds like a pretty fair request. They're basically saying, look, your dad Solomon was incredible, but all his ambition came at a huge cost. We're talking heavy taxes and forced labor. We're worn out. Please, can you just lighten the load a little? This is it. This is Rehoboam's very first test. Is he going to listen? Or is he going to feel like he has to project power?
And this is where it gets really interesting. Rehoboam doesn't just make a snap decision. He actually asks for advice. But he gets two totally opposite recommendations, which sets up this dramatic choice between two completely different ways to lead.
And you can see the two paths so clearly here. On one side, you've got the elders. These are the guys who served his super wise father, Solomon. Their advice, it's all about service, kindness, humility. On the other side, you've got his friends, the young guys he grew up with. Their advice is all about showing power, being dominant, and letting pride lead the way. I mean, that line, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist, wow, that's just pure arrogance talking. It's a statement of force, not leadership.
So, he has to make a choice. And he ignores the elders. He listens to his friends. Why? Well, maybe he was insecure. Maybe he felt this desperate need to prove he was even tougher than his famous dad. Whatever the reason, he chose the path that made him feel powerful, and he totally rejected the path of humility.
And the fallout from this? Whoa. It wasn't gradual, it was instant, and it was a complete disaster. The people heard his harsh answer, and they rebelled right then and there. 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel just broke away and started their own kingdom. With one single, prideful decision, Rehoboam lost most of his kingdom forever.
So, that massive failure brings us right to our first big lesson here. It's all about the powerful link between real humility and the simple act of listening. You see, the elders knew that true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about serving the people you lead.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a wild story about some king from thousands of years ago, but what does that have to do with me? Well, it turns out we all have these Rehoboam moments. We have them at work, in our families, with our friends. We all face these little moments where we have to choose how we're going to respond.
Because the way we lead, even in small ways, it really shows what's going on inside our hearts. When we choose humility, when we decide to listen, to serve, to actually value the other person, we're tapping into God's wisdom. But when we choose pride and arrogance, we do the exact same thing Rehoboam did. We push people away, and we end up missing out on all the blessings that come from unity and trust.
So how do we actually do this? Here are 3 really simple steps. First, just get in the habit of listening before you speak. Just pause. Second, be open to advice, especially from people who've been around the block and have some wisdom to share. And third, always remember this. Real strength isn't about flexing your muscles or your authority, it's shown through humility.
And that leads us to the other side of the coin, our second big lesson. If humility is what builds things up, then its opposite, pride, does something else entirely. It divides. You could say kindness is like a construction tool, but arrogance, that's a wrecking ball. So let's be clear what we mean by pride here. We're not talking about being proud of your work. No, in this context, pride is an attitude that just blows up relationships and creates an us versus them mindset. Humility, though, is the thing that smooths over conflict and actually brings people together in peace. One destroys, the other builds. Simple as that.
And we face this choice all the time. Think about it. In an argument with someone you love, on a team project at work, the temptation is always there to prove you're right, to win the argument no matter what. That's the pride path. And yeah, it might feel strong in that moment, but just like Rehoboam found out the hard way, it almost always leads to division and regret.
So what's the game plan then? How do we build with kindness? Okay, first, when things get heated, make a conscious choice to respond with gentleness instead of anger. Second, change your goal. It's not about proving you're right, it's about building the other person up. And finally, just see every interaction as a chance to let your actions be a small picture of what God's kindness looks like in the real world.
All right, let's bring all this home. This isn't just some old story or a theology lesson. It's a practical guide for your leadership moments. And trust me, you have them every single day, whether you have a fancy title or not.
If you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this simple, powerful idea. Lead with kindness, because humility strengthens hearts. Kindness is not weakness. It's the very thing that builds loyalty, creates trust, and forges strong connections. Humility is the foundation of a strong leader and a strong team. So the final question is just for you. Think about the rest of your day. Your next meeting, your next conversation with your family, that next tough talk you have to have, you're going to face a choice, just like that king did. Are you going to choose the path of control and pride, or will you choose the path of kindness and humility? Your kingdom, no matter how big or small it is, really does depend on that answer.